slaughter of 6 hostages by the Hamas terrorists. Harris explains flip-flopping. Values have not changed. Trump, I'll unfreeze the death penalty moratorium. Welcome. This is Dr. David D. Schein for a special weekly report from Saving America. Slaughter of 6 hostages by Hamas terrorists. This is a continuation of the outrage that began with the atrocities by Hamas and some civilians on October 7, 2023. Of the many hostages taken that day, beyond the 1,200 killed, only about a third have been released. Many are already dead. The cowardly Hamas terrorists have resisted a ceasefire and they've hidden behind these innocent hostages and their own civilians. On the verge of being rescued by Israel Defense Forces, IDF, Hamas executed 6 hostages, 4 men and 2 women. Remember, these were unarmed civilians who were taken on October 7th, and there was no way for them to protect themselves. One of the men was an American Israeli citizen, Hirsch Goldberg Poland. This further underscores the harm done by the weakness of the world stage, the Biden administration. It includes the administration's failure to fully support the work of the IDF to remove the terrorist threat of Hamas and other Iran-backed terrorists. Seeing the pictures of these 6 hostages brings tears to my eyes. I mean that literally. I can only express my regret and sympathy to the families of the 6 and the others killed on or still held hostage. At this point, I do not believe there will be a ceasefire until Hamas is completely destroyed. Harris explains flip-flopping. Her values have not changed. Whether you watch the CNN interview with Kamala Harris and Tim Walz or not, you most likely are aware of it. As expected, it was a softball interview without any tough follow-up questions. Harris has been criticized for having Walz there to back her up. This is clearly not a big press conference or interview that many, even on the slopstream side of the press, are demanding. About the most interesting admission by Harris in the short TV event was that her values have not changed. She has tried to walk back her statements on banning fracking and many other silly far-left statements. My interpretation is that she will lie to get elected, but if her values have not changed, she will follow her current course with the Biden administration on blocking fossil fuels in any way that she can. A zebra does not change its stripes. She again doubled down on the Green New Deal, despite the ridiculous way that it has been structured and its obvious failures to date. Of course, the Trump campaign jumped on her value statement and reminded voters that she supports virtually open immigration and a quick path to citizenship, and her earlier support for eliminating cash bail that has been listed as a factor in the significant increase in crime and recidivism in the United States. So the debate on September 10th, if it happens, is now queued up to be the critical point in the campaign for both sides. I believe the world is closest to a world war than it has been since the Cuban Missile Crisis over 50 years ago. The weakness of the Biden-Harris administration is being felt in the South Pacific as China has continued its bullying of its neighboring countries. The latest was a deliberate ramming of a Philippine Coast Guard ship by a CCP Coast Guard ship. This took place, note, in the Philippines' exclusive economic zone, causing damage to the ship and, of course, endangering the crew. This is a continuation of attacks that have taken place during August without a significant response from the Biden-Harris administration. I guess Harris is too busy campaigning and Biden is too busy sleeping on the beach in California. Illegals invading our country have become so bold that it is reported that a Venezuelan gang has taken control of 3 low-rent apartment complexes in Colorado. The report is from Mike Kaufman, mayor of the Aurora, Colorado, a suburb of Denver. Apparently, these gangs get into some units and then intimidate others who are there and even the landlords. I could understand a report like this coming from northern Mexico. but this should never be happening in the United States. I call on the Biden-Harris administration in the state of Colorado to dispatch National Guard and even Army troops to secure these American apartment complexes. The perpetrators should be jailed and held without bond until they're either imprisoned or deported. The attorneys general for about half the states have asked SCOTUS to block the new EPA methane standards for the oil and gas sector. The EPA claims that these new standards are part of its efforts to sharply reduce emissions of methane and other harmful air pollution from oil and natural gas operations. However, these attorneys general filed an emergency appeal to prevent the EPA from enforcing the rule that went into effect earlier this year. The basic claim is that the new EPA rules ignore the normal process for using certain technologies to achieve emission controls. Further, the 1 and 2 year time periods for implementation are simply too short. The supporting argument is that these new rules could be very costly, thereby imposing greater costs on consumers. This is an interesting development. High-profile and sometimes controversial Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton has announced that an undercover investigation is being conducted in 3 Texas counties due to concerns about active attempts to enroll non-citizens to vote. The Department of Motor Vehicles, DMV locations, provide voter registrations for citizens when they are registering their vehicles. So he asked, why were there nonprofits set up outside of the DMV locations offering to register people to vote? Paxson has reminded the public that registering to vote if you are not a citizen is a crime. It can result in up to 20 years in jail and a fine of up to $10,000. The president of Columbia University, Minouche Shafik, resigned in mid-August. She went directly to a new position in England. She may also have anticipated a major report on sweeping issues of anti-Semitism across the Columbia University campus. The report is full of detailed reports of Jewish students being personally attacked on campus, including having jewelry ripped off, being harassed out of their dorm rooms, and being blocked from walking around the campus. I remind my fellow Christians that we are right after the Jews if this harassment of Jewish students in synagogues is not addressed and halted now. This is not Lebanon. This is the United States. Universities like Columbia get substantial funds from the United States government. They must be held accountable. Former President Donald Trump said he will unfreeze the current federal moratorium on the death penalty on his first day in office to help fight crime. Apparently, the anti-American Attorney General Merrick Garland did this moratorium with the Biden-Harris administration all the way back in 2021. Sorry, folks, I missed this one. He claimed they wanted to review protocols for executions, whatever that means. In fairness, the Justice Department has pushed for the death penalty against suspects charged with mass shootings in Pittsburgh and Buffalo. So they can be given the death sentence by the jury, but if the feds are not actually executing these criminals, then the threat is not a deterrent. The report indicates that Trump will seek executions for drug dealers and cop killers with his focus on a national crackdown on crime. He also said he would seek the death penalty for those convicted of sexually abusing or trafficking children and drug dealers. This is particularly timely because of the recent deliberate killings of various police officers in the United States. This is a stunning development, and in my lifetime, I have never seen a situation like this. Frankly, it used to be that it was extremely rare for a policeman or a member of law enforcement to be killed, and usually it was just part of a gun battle or something like that, but we have had a series of what have been called executions. This must be investigated. We must crack down on this. I'm not tying this necessarily to illegal immigration. I don't know the direct cause of it, but something is wrong in America and it needs to be cleaned up now. I'm a strong supporter of the death penalty. Here in Texas, a 90-year-old man who helped many was outside of his car. A thug went up to him, shot him, grabbed his car, and then ran over him with his own car. The man died shortly thereafter. This thug deserves the death penalty, and I hope that is the result when he is hopefully caught and convicted soon. And I encourage anyone with any information on this situation to call your local law enforcement authorities. A report from the Journal of Nature claims that geologists may have solved the mystery of the origin of the altar stone at Stonehenge, England. The original theory was that the 6-ton altar stone came from about 150 miles away. Still very, very impressive. The new report is that the stone may actually have come 600 miles from northern Scotland. The difficulty of long-distance overland transport suggests that it was transported by sea. According to the article, it's been estimated that the construction of what we know as Stonehenge began as early as 3000 BC. However, the site may have been used as a worship location or gathering site as early as 10,000 BC. Thanks for joining me. This is Dr. David D. Schein for this special weekly report from Saving America. If you've enjoyed this report, please subscribe on your favorite platform.